Hi, we are looking at Module 1.1, Introduction to Computers. And this falls under the theme in CAT, in the theory component of the work, System Technologies. Types of computers. There are lots of different types of computing devices. Some are the kinds of devices you would typically expect to be a computing device. Desktop computer. This is a computer that requires electricity, plugs, cables to be plugged in. Laptop. This is a mobile device or portable, sorry, that's a better term for it. It's a portable device. You're able to carry it around and you're able to work off the battery. So it does not require continuous electricity. And instead of a mouse, like your desktop computer, you've got a little trackpad, your keyboard, your screen. This device looks pretty much like that. You might think they're both laptops. This type of device is called a netbook, as in N-E-T, netbook. And it's smaller than a laptop, but pretty much functions exactly the same as a laptop. They're not as popular nowadays. A couple of years ago, they were very popular. They're probably about the size of an A4 page folded in half. So smaller than a traditional laptop, not as powerful. So just generally for browsing the internet and typing some emails. This device is a hybrid 2-in-1 device. You have the tablet screen at the top, and it's able to connect magnetically to a keyboard and trackpad to kind of make it work like a laptop. So you kind of have the benefits of a laptop and a tablet device. And this is our cell phone. Other types of computers, you could have a PlayStation or Xbox. Some televisions, you can get a smart television that can connect to the internet. You can download apps on it. Refrigerators, you get smart refrigerators with screens built in. They can have Google Assistant. You can, it'll keep track of what products are in your fridge, what goes out of the fridge. It'll order you new products when you hit a certain amount of products that have left the fridge. Really crazy kind of stuff, but these are your main kind of computing devices. If we look at a personal computer, a PC, this is a desktop PC. We have the screen, the systems unit or the tower. We have speakers. We have a microphone. We have a mouse, keyboard. This type of monitor is quite an old style monitor. This is an example of an all-in-one PC. So you have the keyboard and mouse, just like you would have on a standard desktop computer. And then you have the screen, but the tower is incorporated in the screen. So the desktop part, the box, is actually built into the screen. So your RAM, your solid state drive, your motherboard, it's all inside the screen. It's nice. It takes up a lot less space. But it is very difficult and quite expensive, sometimes impossible, to upgrade. You would generally have to purchase a newer one. So has benefits, has negatives, kind of. This is the Apple version, the iMac desktop, and this is a Windows equivalent by Lenovo, all-in-one PC. Yeah, we've got a laptop. So we've got the monitor, which has the screen. We've got the keyboard. Speakers are built in. You can see it's a laptop, and there's a touchpad. The touchpad works like a mouse. It's got a left and right click, and the pad section for you to move your fingers to scroll up, scroll down, tap. This is a diagram of a smartphone. I don't expect you to sit and memorize all these words, but you need to have a general idea of what one would find on a phone. So generally, phones have a front and a rear camera, rear being on the back of the phone. So they would have a front camera and a back camera on the phone. Generally, the back camera has much better megapixels or resolution than the front camera. And on most modern cell phones in the last year or two, the back camera, the rear camera, would have 2, 3, 4 cameras on the back. kind of a wide lens angle, macro, normal lens, just kind of depending on the type of cell phone. A home button. Now, what a lot of companies have done, this is the iPhone 6S, so it's quite old. They've removed the button and they've actually put a button on the screen. So you actually put your thumb on the screen. The home button also will have the fingerprint sensor built in. And so just by putting your thumb or finger on a certain part of the screen is able to take you to your home page or log you onto the phone by unlocking it. A front and rear microphone so that you're able to talk to people on the phone, record your voice. Speakers so that you can hear, listen to music, listening to TikToks, whatever you're doing. Micro USB or lightning connector. So that's where you would plug in the cable to charge the phone to increase battery. I would say micro USB is kind of moving away from that as a standard. Most Android cell phones are using USB-C as their connector. The advantage of USB-C is that you can plug the cable in anywhere and it will go in. Where with the micro USB, you had to plug it in the correct way. Lightning connector, you can actually plug in, I think, anyway, but it's limited to your Apple devices. Volume buttons, you would expect a phone to have volume buttons. A SIM card tray where the SIM card goes. Apple phones or iPhones do not have a SD card slot. Most of your Android devices on the SIM card tray, there's a slightly extra area and you're able to insert an SD card as well to extend your storage. And then the sleep wake button, on off button to turn the device on and off. Maybe move it to, on the iPhone, they have the silent sort of button. And so you just need to have an awareness of different types of buttons and features that one would expect to find in a smartphone. So a computer is made up of two parts, namely hardware and software. If we look at the pictures, try and work out what is hardware and what is software. What is the difference? Okay. Hardware are the physical parts of the computer that you can touch and see. So when you walk into the computer lab at school, you will see computers. You'll see there are monitors, there are keyboards, there are mice, there are desktop towers. Though if you're in Miss Furstenberg's classroom, you will notice that there is no desktop tower anymore underneath the desks. The desktop tower is actually mounted on the back of the monitor. It's a little square box. They're actually quite small, but they are very powerful. And they are kind of the newest standard that a lot of computers are moving to. It takes up a lot less space. Yeah. Software, the instructions that you give the computer in order for it to do something useful. These instructions are often referred to as programs or applications. So if you think about anything that you would download from the Play Store on an Android device or the App Store on an iOS device, games, antivirus software, Windows, Office, TikTok, Instagram, whatever app you're kind of downloading, that's your software. The actual phone, the earphones, the charging cable, those kind of things are your hardware. You need to know the difference between your hardware and software. How a computer works. So I've switched the on button, my computer's up and running, but how's it kind of working? So computers need to take some form of input. So information needs to be put into the computer. And generally that information is put in as data. So you have a keyboard and a mouse. So you could type with the keyboard. Typing on the keyboard is input. So computers take that input, they do something to it, which is called processing. So I'm typing a whole lot of things in a Word document. What is it going to do? What is it going to make? And it processes that stuff, and then it produces some form of output. How do I see that output? Well, my computer could have a screen and I could look on the screen and see what's being displayed. My computer could have a printer and I've printed it out. I'm able to look at the piece of paper and see what was typed. Often the input or output of the computer needs to be stored for later use. So I can save it on the hard drive of my computer, or I could save it on a flash drive, on a CD. Computers process data into information. So when I start typing on my keyboard, putting that input in, that's just data. It's unprocessed facts. Imagine I'm just typing different letters on the keyboard. Information, the result of the processing of data, well, that information could be eventually I've drawn up a class list of everyone that's in my class. I'm able to use that information to gain information. So the information processing cycle consists of input, processing, output. Input, processing, storage. So here are some examples of input devices: keyboard, mouse, touchscreen. So if you think of a cell phone or a tablet, they have a touchscreen. On the touchscreen, when you try and input information, you get a keyboard that pops on the screen. It's a keyboard that is not actually physically there. It's in the screen. It's embedded in the screen. And so I use the touchscreen to input information. The touchpad is what we find on the laptop. It works pretty much like a normal mouse. A joystick, or these are used typically with gamers. They're not as popular nowadays. If you want to think of a better one, controller, like one would find on a PlayStation or an Xbox device or a Nintendo Switch. Stylus, if you think about the Apple Pencil, or if you your parents have Samsung Galaxy Note devices, they have a little stylus that is able to be removed from the phone, and you can draw on the phone with your stylus. A stylus. You get lots of different types of input devices. Processing, we're looking at two particular things: the central processing unit, the CPU, and the random access memory, the RAM. Output. How do I see what I've put into my device and I've processed? Well, I've got a screen, monitor, printer, data projector in a classroom, a touch screen. Remember, a tablet, there's the keyboard that is able to pop on the screen, or the mouse sort of functionality or touchpad sort of functionality, in that I'm able to tap, hold, long press on an app, swipe on an app. That allows the touchscreen to be input, but also the touchscreen is output in that it displays. It's a screen. It is displaying what I am doing. Types of storage devices: hard disk drive, HDD, solid state drive, SSD, flash drive. Optical media. Optical media includes CDs, DVDs, and Blu-ray discs. Introduction to Windows. Operating systems. There are different types of operating systems on computers. The most important program on a computer is the program that controls all the activities on the computer. That is the operating system. Some examples of operating systems you would find on a desktop or laptop computer would include Microsoft Windows 10. That's what we use at school. Looks like this. Linux Pay OS. Linux is an open source software. You do not pay for it, and you're able to use it on your device. Ubuntu as well is open source. It's free. You're able to use it on your device. And Mac OS. If you have a MacBook, you can run the Mac operating system on it. Booting up. So booting up is basically switching your computer on. That is called booting up. But there's two different types of booting up. There is a warm boot and a cold boot. A cold boot is if my computer has been switched off. I shut it down yesterday, last night, this morning I shut it down, and I've come back a while later to use it. My computer is cold. It hasn't been used in a while, and I switch the power on and it is starting up. A warm boot is if I've been using my computer for a while, and either I've done a whole lot of updates on my device, I've installed something new, and the computer's prompting me to restart it. I go, if I just exit here, to my power settings, and I select restart. Okay, so that would be a warm boot. So to boot a computer is to load an operating system into the computer's main memory or random access memory. Once the operating system is loaded, it's ready for users to run applications. So I'm basically switching my computer on and it's just running the system. The most common reasons to reboot are the installation of new software or hardware, and it requires it. It's even going to tell you, please restart your computer. Applications are not responding for some reason. Your computer is just not working properly. Restart it. That often sorts out the problem. Logging on. When you log on to a computer, logging on refers to the process of gaining access to the programs and data on the computer, often with a username and password, especially in a networked environment. So if you think of school, we have a networked environment. It is essential to use a username and password for security purposes. For you to log on the school computer, you have a username and a password. Only you can access your files and anything else that you have the right to access when the username and password has been entered. And some tips here when you are creating a good password, a secure password, a strong password. Avoid using dictionary words. Don't use personal information like your birth date or your favorite puppy. Avoid common sequences. Common sequences would be something like 1, 2, 3, 4. 10, 9, 8, 7. Use longer passwords, so 8 characters or more. That's better than a shorter one. Harder to crack. Create different passwords for different accounts and applications. If everything is the same password and somebody finds out your password, they're able to gain access to all your stuff. Consider using a secure password manager. So if you look at my computer, I'm just going to quickly show you here. I have Kaspersky Password Manager. Let's see if I can remember my password. And it manages all my passwords for me. So if I forget, I can go look it up. If I need to change it, I can go do that. It's telling me that some have been compromised, so I need to follow that up. Have a look there. It's going to tell me I had a data breach the other day where Canva leaked. So it's telling me there's a couple of things I need to check out. I don't even have a Telkom account, so I don't know why it's saying my Telkom account is compromised. That's interesting. Anyway, Password Manager can be really helpful. It'll suggest strong passwords for you. Yeah. The desktop. This is the first basic screen of operating system. The small pictures are called icons and represent programs or places on the computer. So this is my desktop. The start button. I can access lots of apps. I can pin apps to my bar at the bottom. I can pin them here as well. This is my notification area. Tells me the date and time, what keyboard I'm using, notifications, microphone, storage, lots of other things. I can type to access utilities, software, things like adding or removing programs, any of that kind of stuff. So we got the start button. That was the bottom right. Notification panel at the bottom left. Yeah, we've got recently added, most used programs, user tile. You would click there to log on or log off. Power, that would be to shut down, sleep, or restart. All my apps, I could scroll down if there's a suggestion. These are my tiles. This is the start layout. Pinned folders. Okay, so those are all your things there. What happens when we save our work? So you're busy typing on a Word document and you want to save. Everything is stored as files on the computer. When we save a file, we're normally saving it to the hard drive. You can also choose to save to other locations. So I don't have to save on my computer. I could save my work onto a flash drive. So some of you might do that. You're working at school on a project, you've created your file, you're not finished, so you decide to save it on your flash drive and you take it home to work on your computer. You could choose to save onto an optical drive, but your CD or your DVD or your Blu-ray disc would have to be a rewritable disc, not just any type of disc, a rewritable disc, and you can then write the data on there. Or maybe you've got an external hard drive that you've plugged in and you've saved your file to. Storage is used to keep a permanent record of programs and data. You can delete it, but if you have stored it there, it is permanently recorded there. So, when we work with a program, we load it from storage into memory or RAM. So I've got my Word document. You just open. I'm on my computer and I open up my document. Yeah, I've got my Word document. This document is sitting on the RAM. Okay. I'll make some beautiful typing. Oh, I can actually do some typing. Oh, forgot how to do this. Okay, I'll have to give up. Here we go. Haha. So I've got my text, I've typed my document, and it's in my RAM. I haven't saved this document before. When I go File, Save, it's the first time I'm clicking on this. Where am I going to save it? I'm going to save on this PC, and I'm going to call this paste. Save. This file is now in my storage. Okay, great. So this is now stored on my hard drive. If I make changes, those are loading again in the RAM. In order to save it to my document, I need to click Save. So memory is temporary. RAM, the work that I've loaded into my RAM, is temporary. If the power had to go out, you know South African life, load shedding, unexpected sometimes, the contents of this memory are deleted. So that's why you need to save your work regularly. I will say, depending on the type of RAM you have and the advances that Windows 10 particularly has made, sometimes the computer is able to recover part of what you were working on or the entire thing you were working on. So sometimes you can get lucky and it's not deleted. But generally, the power goes out, the contents are deleted. That is called volatility, and memory is volatile. It is temporary. The power erases what is saved or not saved yet. So if we're looking at memory versus storage, we've got some examples. We've got RAM, and we've got all these other storage options. RAM falls under processing in our input processing storage output cycle. Storage obviously is its own one. Hard disk drive, solid state drive, flash drive, optical media. Volatility. In computers, volatile is used to describe memory content that is lost when the power is interrupted or switched off. Memory, so RAM, is erased when the power is switched off. Some recent types of RAM can keep some of the content safe when the power is lost. Storage is a permanent copy, so it is not volatile. If the power goes off, whatever was stored there is still stored there when power is returned. Size. So if I buy a computer, generally the amount of RAM in the computer, 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes. Gaming PCs could go up to 64 gigabytes. That is really expensive. So you're probably looking at 4 to 8 gigs on a computer. Storage, however, if I've got a hard drive, we're looking at high gigabytes to low terabytes. So I've probably got 512 gigs, 1 or 4 terabytes of storage. If I've got a solid state drive, I'm probably looking at 240 gigs SSD storage. The minute you go to 512 gigs of, well, let's have a look. We can actually check this out. Let me not just tell you, let me show you. If we look at a place like Takealot, and we go hard disk drive. Let's have a look. This is 1 terabyte of hard disk drive storage. If I bought a hard drive, it's going to cost me 749 Rand for 1 terabyte. If I had to buy a SSD, 1 terabyte, we're looking at 3,299 Rand. Samsung got one for 2,599 Rand. Western Digital, 2,199. They're going smaller now. So you'll see your SSD, it's newer technology. It costs a lot more than your hard drive. If you look at RAM, probably the most amount of RAM you can get is 64 gigabytes of RAM, and I don't even know if they're going to solve that in South Africa. 8. Yeah, they're only going up to 32. So you'd have to get 232 to get your 64. Yeah, they're making that 32 from 216s. So generally, 32 gigs is not often sold. So 32 gigs, you're looking at 3,899 Rand. That price in solid state drive, you were getting a terabyte. 32 gigs to 1,024 gigs. So you can see that your RAM is more expensive per gigabyte, and storage is a lot cheaper per gigabyte, but hard drive is a lot cheaper than solid state drive, but solid state drive is a lot faster. Okay, some additional notes. The home row keys on a QWERTY keyboard are ASDF with your left hand, and your right hand JKL and a little semicolon, and both your thumbs would be resting on the space bar. That is the home row key. Why is it called the QWERTY keyboard? QWERTY, the first couple of letters spelled QWERTY. The other type of keyboard you could get is Dvorak. It's not really used that much around the world, but it was designed to replace the QWERTY pattern, but people like the QWERTY layout. It's what we know. It works really well. It feels natural when you're typing, and you just kind of learn where everything is. And so QWERTY is the most popular. Mouse. That's also an input device. It interacts with the graphical user interface. So Windows is an example of a graphical user interface. Basically means there are things that you can click on, little icons, little pictures. You don't have to type computer code to get your computer to do things. Can be used while pressing a key on the keyboard. So you could hold a key in on the keyboard and click a mouse button to do something. It's the most commonly used pointing device. Some actions that you could do, you could click, you could double click, right click, scroll, drag. What is the GUI? Graphical user interface. It's part of the operating system. The graphical user interface is a type of user interface that allows users to interact with electronic devices through graphical icons and visual indicators. A mouse is a perfect input device for a GUI environment. What type of actions or gestures can I use with the touchscreen? You can tap, double tap, drag, flick, pinch, spread, press and tap, press and drag, rotate. So just know 2 or 3 of them. What is multi-touch technology? Well, in computing, multi-touch technology enables a surface, like on a trackpad or a touchscreen, to recognize the presence of more than 1 or more than 2 points of contact with the surface. Those 3 fingers are 3 points of contact. Hardware that makes use of this technology includes touchscreens, smartphones, tablets. What is meant by multitasking? Multitasking in an operating system is allowing a user to perform more than one computer task, such as the operation of an application program at a time. The operating system is able to keep track of where you are in these tasks and to go from one to another without losing the information. If your computer doesn't have a lot of RAM available, multitasking could be a problem. The more RAM a device has, the better the process of multitasking. Now, if you think of when you're using a smartphone, you could have some music playing in the background, and you could have the browsing app open and be browsing something while you listen to music. You're doing more than one thing at a time. On a computer, you've got YouTube playing while you're typing up a research project, and you've got a browser open to search for images at the same time. And you're moving between each of these different things. These are all the different types of input devices. So we know the mouse, the keyboard. Numeric keypad, you would generally find that on an extra long keyboard. It's the part on the right where they've just got all the numbers together. Or if you think about an ATM, they have a numeric keypad for you to enter your PIN code and that kind of things in. Pointing devices, trackpad, trackball, remote control, joystick or controller, touchscreen, digital camera, microphone, MIDI instruments, those like piano keyboards that you can plug into the computer, temperature sensor, pressure sensor, light sensor, graphics tablet, MICR, magnetic ink character recognition. So with checks, you would have learned about checks in EMS, checks. When you present them to the bank, they've got special software that can recognize what is written on the check and can do certain scans. OCR, optical character recognition, that's with your scanner. You can scan a page of a textbook, and you can take that scanned page and you can edit the text. Video camera, video digitizer, webcam, light pen, magnetic stripe reader, so that you're looking at credit cards, debit cards, smart card, scanner, OMR, optical mark reader. This is when you do, like if you think of the lotto ticket, but it's more at university. You get pages where you're going to fill in your test for multiple choice with pencil, and then a computer can read it and mark it. OMR. I'll show you an example. So you've got a page. Yeah. So you get this a lot at university. Let's make it bigger. And you get this page, and as you're answering each of the multiple choice questions, you circle in the answer that is correct. And you go all the way down. And then it goes through a little machine like that, and it's able to mark the whole thing for you. It's quite useful. And a barcode reader. So you see that at the shops, they scan the barcode at Pick and Pay, and it's able to input all that information on the till. So it's got a little glossary. These are terms that have come up, and they're things that you should know. I'm not going to read through them. I can read through them myself. And that's chapter 1. I hope you've learned something useful. And yeah, that's the end. Thank you for listening.